Hey, this is Hammett, and this is the Millennial Rockstar Podcast. Hey, and welcome to this episode of the Millennial Rockstars Podcast. So in today's podcast, the rockstar we had is Jared Morgan of ExpressWorks International. And Jared had, so many pieces of great advice throughout the entire interview. But the one thing that really sticks out to me is when he said, show up on time and do what you say you're going to do. And I think that that's fantastic advice, not only for millennials in the workforce, but for everybody in the workforce. Can you imagine the different world that we would live in if everybody lived by that philosophy? So join me and watch Jared Morgan as he shares with us even more fantastic information. Hey there, this is Amanda Hammett, and I'm known as the Millennial Translator because I help companies attract, retain, and engage top millennial talent. And today's episode of the Millennial Rockstars Podcast brings us a very special and hard to get rockstar. Today's rockstar is Jared Morgan. Jared, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm so sorry for the constant follow-ups that we've had chasing each other down. So I take ownership for that.
No, sir. No, sir. This was, we've had some difficulties getting on each other's schedules, but I just chalk it up to we are two busy, in-demand people. How about that?
I will not deny that. If that's what you want to bestow upon me, for sure.
Absolutely. So, the interesting thing about this show is that everybody who's a guest on the show has to be nominated by a coworker, a boss, or somebody who can really vouch for your work ethic, who can vouch for the fact that you are nothing like a millennial stereotype of lazy and entitled. And the interesting thing is I put the call out to my network, and a gentleman in my network put it out to his network. And that's where you came from. You were actually nominated anonymously by an organization that you are very involved with. So you don't know the person. I don't know who it was either. But tell us a little bit about that organization that nominated you, the Emerging 100.
And thank you to whoever felt me worthy to do so. Emerging 100 of Houston is an auxiliary organization of 100 Black men of America. Originally founded about over 60 years ago in New York City, and it was geared toward making sure that there was a pipeline of mentoring from many men of color toward boys of color. And it's since expanded to include young girls as well, and even young adult women. So through the collegiate 100 chapters that we have across the nation in various universities, it's over 50 something chapters, I think, for collegiate. So within emerging is really somewhat new, ties into the aspect of your show, Millennials. So it tries to grab that 35 through 22 bracket and provide them with an opportunity to fellowship among themselves, drive results within the community, and without the heavy-handed oversight of, say, differences in generation. So normally what would have happened is someone would apply to become a part of 100 Black men of America, but now there's an age limit there, and so it allows us to create our own space and be creative in it and deliver impact to the community.
That is fantastic. I'm always for delivering impact to the community, whatever that is.
Yeah. I'm a huge proponent of that for sure.
That is amazing, and I appreciate that. So one of the things that they had to say about you in the nomination form was that you put your money, your time, and your effort into where your mouth is. So you don't just talk, you do. And I think that that's important. That action taking, I think, is important. And I would imagine that you don't just have that action taking in your outside, your extracurricular. I would imagine you have that in your career as well. So tell us a little bit about your career. What do you do now? What's going on there?
So let me see. The best phrase for what I do. Management consulting is the more, I guess, accepted term, but more specifically in that space among those who know about management consulting, I'm in OCM. So people management, behavioral influence, and corporate communications, internally speaking, are the three main buckets of what I focus my 9 to 5 skill set on. So I currently work for ExpressWorks International. It's a firm of consultants that are located pretty much all over the globe, but specifically with strongholds in Houston, San Francisco, and uh, the Netherlands, England, kind of sort of. So this Europe space, but that's who I work for. I enjoy it very much. I have been with this firm for the past 5 months, and it's honestly been transformational to my career.
Transformational is not a word that you hear a whole lot in talking about careers and
Well,
career paths.
So those who don't like quote unquote empty phrases from the corporate world, please forgive me. You'll hear a lot of them as I use them often. But what is perceived as to be empty, I try to provide more impact and context around. So I don't just say things and just say it on an email. If I say it, I meant it, and there's some way you can say that you can see that word somewhere. So I do apologize that I do have some skills in corporate speak, but not necessarily in quote unquote corporate do. I'm a doer. I strive to be.
I picked that up in your nomination form a little bit. So tell us a little bit about, so you were telling me before we got on the call that you just turned 33. So again, happy birthday.
Are you sure my age?
Oh, I'm so sorry. You turned 23. I'm so sorry.
Oh, how dare you? Okay.
So you just had a birthday, which means that you've been in the workforce for a little while. You have some years under your belt. You're not just new into your career path. So tell us a little bit about, have you found anything that has really worked for you in your career? Whether it's a mantra or a methodology or something in particular. What's worked for you?
Well, it sounds weird, and not to be a corporate shrill, if you will, but we have a saying here that you show up on time and do what you say. That's huge. I've even had examples of whether someone will say, hey, if I didn't have everything I needed to have for this meeting call, is it okay for me to just cancel it and wait till I have more of it? And it's important to show up and do as you said you would do. So if you don't even have that, at least have the response of why you don't have it. What are some of the things you need to in order to get to it, but still stick to those times. Sticking to those times are huge. It's something that I have previously struggled with because I'm such a fluid thinker. I think is it left brain? Left brain is the more creative.
I always get it confused.
I should know that, especially if I'm bringing it up. But I am naturally that type of person, and so I've had to get better at being hard stopping to dates and times. But it's a priority struggle in terms of understanding that, especially when you're in my space of being somewhat of a seasoned rookie, like if that makes any sense, right? Like this person who has a little bit more experience under his belt, but still has plenty of room for growth. So I would say that one. One of the quotes that I think I have in my signature is service is the rent you pay for the space that you occupy on earth. And so all the things that you have been given an opportunity to work for, an opportunity to go out and get, you have to pay it forward. And it feels good to pay it forward. Usually that energy, I think, trumps any personal achievement. And I'm willing to test anyone on that theory. But I say those two and maybe one more. Keep it simple, stupid. You gotta keep things very simple. I have a tendency to be very verbose, and I've had to learn how to nail that down. And so a lot of times what I notice is that people who seem to be a little struggling in their career or in general is that they don't really keep it simple. They think more is better. But a lot of times in more is less. I get lost in translation. I don't see your main points. I'm confused and now I'm immobilized now. So now I'm paralyzed to do nothing for you.
Yep.
So it's keep it simple. Don't just throw information and just throw it. Data is just data. Until you give it context and a story, it's just data. No actionable items can come from it. So I would say those are things that I learned and probably learned a little bit the hard way in the beginning of my career. But because I'm, audiences matter, right? Like who's reading what you're getting and what are their intentions with that information and everything like that matters. I'm one of those people that you could throw me in front of an almanac and I could read it all day long because I'm a fact information based person. But there are people who are creative, there are people who are listeners, there are people who are visual, and so you have to really understand your audience in order to communicate effectively. So in a roundabout way, everything in my life has been everything's an example. Sorry, but yeah, I'm passionate about those three things. I think
That's awesome.
At least today.
At least today.
At least today.
So let's talk about some of the harder lessons learned, some of the stumbling blocks that you face, because I mean, I know that I have had multiple stumbling blocks in my own career. So give us an example of one major stumbling block that you faced and how did you overcome it? What did you do?
So it was within the GOLD program at Johnson & Johnson, where I went after graduating from grad school. So it was my first big boy job, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And on my second rotation, I was put in a quality engineer role. Totally outside of my background. I have no background in biomechs. I have very little understanding of engineering outside of, say, some high school training. So a lot of that was foreign to me. And a lot of the jobs in which I was responsible for were older, right? So older generation. And so I got some lumps when I tried to jump straight into work because I could pinpoint who they were, right? Like I could read that characteristics of baby boomers. What are some of the challenges they face? What are some of their communication styles? I can read that. And so I had some of that, right? But I didn't understand how they viewed me. They saw me as this millennial, and I don't consider myself a millennial, you know what I mean? In different contexts. I think, when I came out of college, I was called Gen Y. So I didn't know where even millennial came from. So, but they see me as that, right? Because they're continuously seeing it in marketing feeds, you name it.
Yeah, everywhere.
What a millennial is. He's going to be versed to judgment. He's not going to take your opinion into factoring. He's not going to have an appreciation for what you know and what you've taken time to learn. And he's going to always need constant gratification and reaffirmation of who he is and what he's doing.
Absolutely.
All of which annoy me equally, right? And so when I finally understood that was how they were viewing me, I was able to create an environment where we could have some of that real talk of, back in my day, those conversations and them realizing how different I was from what they had perceived was huge. And then from then on, I mean, we're talking about week turnaround on stuff that I needed when it was taking 3 weeks or more. Wow. So I started to get prioritized, different things of that nature. And some of it is just truly human interaction. I'm naturally an introvert. So even though I can crack jokes, I can be social, it's been a learned attribute. I'm naturally, so if I can sit at my computer and send emails, the natural side of me will be quite okay with that. That's not how people react. It's not how people move in the world. And so those lumps, I think, were mostly from a social standpoint, finding how to hear my own voice in a corporate setting, being okay with that voice and making sure that was communicated to others. So it took some time to get that.
Oh, that's cool. All right. That's a very, very good example. And I think that it's something that I hear a lot of is younger millennials are in a position where they're now managing or depending on older generations, and they're being looked at as this kid, and nobody wants to take the kid seriously. And so, how do you manage that? And I think that you managed it beautifully, honestly. I mean, I know that it was a learning curve for you, but I feel like you did a good job. So congratulations.
I thank you. And I think sometimes all learning opportunities will be successful, right? So sometimes it won't be a good result. Sometimes you might end up being let go, fired, etc. But as long as you learn something from all those experiences, it's a lesson learned. It doesn't have to necessarily end with a favorable conclusion that you desire. As long as you learn, and that's really the key. So learn from all situations. Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that wholeheartedly.
I think, if I didn't have the support of upper management in different spaces that weren't even at that particular location, if I didn't have their support, I might not have been as confident to take the approach that I took. I might not have, to kind of step out on faith or step out and trust that what sounded good most likely is good. I needed to hear that comforting support. And so I don't understate that by any means, because I know it helps me still to this day, is support. Support is important.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think that you can get anywhere in the corporate world without support.
Anywhere in the world, really. I mean, as a champion, you should have a champion in each and everything that you do.
I agree. Yeah. I absolutely
someone who understands your core values, understands you beyond the nice little cards and cutouts that they give for every generation and every personality type. So somebody who really gets you. And that takes time to build. I think a lot of times people don't take the time to build them.
I agree. I think that we sometimes rely too heavily on technology and what it gives to us, but it takes away that human to human connection. And we're hardwired for that, and we need it and we crave it. And it's
I mean, just the other day, try not to, I don't think they'll see this anyway, but it was in a group meet where someone was suggesting that they use LinkedIn to find mentors, which I think is smart. But they find a mentor and then say something along the effects of "be my mentor." How many times has this person seen that? How is what you're doing standing out in a real connection? Yeah. LinkedIn is an aid. It's not the replacement. No. So you should be leveraging. Can we meet for coffee? Can we go and pay for it like a responsible adult and earn the time, earn the space time in front of someone? I think sometimes we just think, I pinged you, I messaged you, so now we have a relationship. That doesn't work in people's dating lives, so why would that work here?
Oh, Jared, we're going to be friends. I can just
I look forward to it, Amanda.
So, all right. Now, you have an interesting educational background. You went to Florida A&M. But then
you? I just had to do that real quick.
And then you went to Shanghai University for your graduate. Correct. So did you have any of these preconceived ideas about what work or the working world was going to be like before you left the confines of the classroom? And what were the differences between the idealized version from college and the reality version?
So I felt like I'm pretty good on paper. I'm a masterful communicator in terms of casual conversation. So then by natural ordained, I would become successful. No, not at all. And I say the real world was just totally different. It's a constant show me, constant proving yourself. And that's okay because it keeps you naturally growing. It keeps you energized to develop and push yourself to those limits. So I would say that was, I thought I could charm corporate America and nah. Nah. And the funny thing is, if I saw myself now, I would either pull myself to the side or totally disregard the person because I know what that's like now. So it's like, no, it's too much fluff and probably not enough substance or something, which wasn't the case. But if you're not cognizant of those
Mm-hmm.
those things that you give off, it can impact you and how people feel about you. So I would
Yes.
say that was it for me, at least. I thought you could charm corporate America and charm yourself into a situation. And you say, "Oh, I'm smart," so then people will give me jobs and give me promotions. No, no, you got to work, man. There's no substitute.
It doesn't work that way,
No,
man.
well, at least not in my world. I mean, I don't know if that's working for you, man. I mean, by all means, give us the code. Give us the cheat
It
code.
did not work that way. It did not work that way at all.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been at a couple different companies throughout your career, and had some different positions. Is there been a boss or a mentor, or maybe through the Emerging 100 program? I know that you guys do some mentoring there. Is there anything that they have done that has helped you stay mentally engaged at work and productive at work?
Yeah, the brothers that I work with in Emerging 100 Houston are just as accomplished, if not more, in really good stages of their lives. And the fact that they keep grinding makes me want to grind. So the fact that they work hard, I see them working hard. I'm like, oh, I'm sleeping too much. I need to work. So it's just different things like that, that competitive juices and competitive nature. And then as far as boss, two people really stick out to me. Takesha Racing, who was my long-term director prior to me coming to this new firm. And then the current firm that I'm at, the guy who brought me in, his name is William Mouton. Ooh, he was going to hurt me.
Yes,
William Mouton. William Mouton, who I found in my organization. He's a part of the older version of the organization. And just feeling comfort around him, finding someone who knew OCM work, organizational change management, who knew OCM work, was familiar with a lot of the hurdles that I had encountered from corporate America space. Also being from my same, what would you call it, affinity group, I think is the corporate word, but my racial background, we tend to get treated in monoliths, whether it be race, gender, age, you name it, right?
Yep.
So to be around someone who had came out on the other side of that navigation was important. So, yeah, I would say those two people are huge in terms of where I am today in the last 5 years.
That's awesome. I love that. And I love that it was they gave you those learning experiences, and I'm sure that they pushed you sometimes when you didn't want to be pushed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and
bosses do.
Yeah, absolutely. And when there are times where I see things my way and I assume that must be
the way.
Forgive me, I'm going to get very real. The Black man, 30-year-old way of viewing it. And then you see someone else not view it that way. You go, wait, I'm missing a connection here. Now, oftentimes you're missing a perspective that you don't see. And they are wonderful at giving it. They are some of the best at giving it. So, those two people really stick out in my mind. I'd give them an island if I could.
All right. Well, if you're giving out islands, I mean.
I don't know if I said that. We on day one, man.
Day one. Day one. Okay.
Baby crawls.
So let me ask you this. Whether this is your current company or maybe, one that you've been at in the past, is there anything about the perks or the benefits or maybe even the culture of the company or the subculture of your specific team that has just helped you to create like a sense of loyalty to the company where you're like, man, I got to get up. I want to do awesome by this company today?
It's interesting because I had this conversation with my wife, and it was along the lines of, if an opportunity came along and paid me X, Y, and Z more, would I take it? And the honest answer is no, because this company, even in the short time frame, has done more for my professional growth and wanting to be invested in me than all the companies I've been a part of. And that's not to knock them. Some of them aren't geared or designed in that way. But been much more than a learning factory for me. This has been an investment in seeing me 5 years from now. And I immediately have seen the payback on that. So I would say that this group is really, really interested in the right answer. I've never seen a company really hone in on the right answer, not who, not where it came from, the right answer, the right solution to things. And so I've been really diving into that because it's energized me to believe that the right way can win, and that we don't have to enter in all these other factors that have nothing to do with the solution. So, yeah, I hope I hit the nail on the head in my subgroup or my sub project team. Absolutely amazing. Very flexible. I'm gonna miss them when I no longer have the project, I'm sure. It's just extremely flexible, lighthearted.
Mm-hmm.
We're always joking with each other. There's a huge social connection that we share, and I think it helps us get each other's back, right? So it's because we share those commonalities, whether it's, we're not the same background wise by any means, but because we have those social interactions and joke and we do all these other different things, it makes extra work on a Sunday easier, makes extra work on a Saturday easier. So I would say those are the things that stick out to me, at least.
Okay. So I just want to clear this one, and I just want to hone in on it for just a second.
No
on that last thing on the subculture of your particular team.
Mm-hmm.
You actually mean the human to human connection that you have with these people, correct?
Yeah. There's no other way to explain it. Doesn't necessarily always come through the medium of physically being in front of each other. Sometimes it's through Skype and joking in that manner. But there's definitely a human aspect, right? That is not relegated to emoticons and memes and gifs. It's just genuine conversation with two human beings with similar interests.
Two human beings being human beings together. I love it.
So is this your anti-social media manifesto?
It is not. It is not. Video bad. No, but it's really interesting. I think that a lot of people, and millennials are definitely, do this, but if you go in and you notice that other generations have started tending to do this as well, is that they default a lot of times to difficult conversations, or get to know you conversations are done through technology. And I just don't think that it quite builds the same rapport and relationships, really. That's it. I love technology.
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah. So.
But I think, to what your point is, I think naturally human beings will side with the path of least resistance.
Of course.
If they have an opportunity to turn a difficult conversation into a tweet war, then they'd rather do that than actually deal with the ramifications of impacting someone's life.
Mm-hmm. No, I absolutely agree. And there's a whole, psychological study on exactly, what's going on in your brain when you can do it via technology versus face-to-face. There's, data out there. So, all right. So tell me about this. You have a pretty varied background, both professionally and in your extracurricular activities. So tell us, what is it that made you stand out in the hiring process? What was it that made your boss, well, I know that your boss knew you through Emerging 100, but what was it in maybe another role that made your boss say, yeah, we got to call this Jared guy and get him in here and interview him? What was it about?
Personal relationship. Nothing has superseded that. Sure, once the connection is there, you're put in a certain position where you can sell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to do that, but I'm 100% confident it's the personal relationship, without question. And because there are things that come with it that are unintended consequences, like I now can have a candid conversation on the do's and don'ts before I go into an interview. If a person doesn't know you, they can't really give that to you in a very comforting way. So yeah, it literally, the personal relationship took every other aspect to the next level in terms of preparation.
Very good. Yeah, I think that that's fantastic. So, tell me a little bit about, you've been through the hiring process with multiple companies. Is there anything that you wish companies knew about hiring a younger employee? Is there anything that you think that they should change, or anything that you think that they do spectacularly well?
Which industry am I talking to right now?
Any industry.
I want to tell them something. No, I'm just kidding. What about young people? Get to the point. Ask what you want to know. I think with young people, if you go in a casual format, it's hard to switch to a very serious tone in terms of trying to extract work capabilities or work skills. So ask what you want to know. You can definitely open with some light stuff, but don't allow yourself to stay in that mode. Allow the young person to actually extract their skills and their talents. And don't be so hard on things that you find comforting. So you like to do X, Y, and Z. You like to, and what you'll tend to do is then take that with you into the interview, and anything contrary to that, you don't like the person. But it's the contrary that builds the team. It's what they can see that you can't. And so instead of focusing on what is not the same, talk about how magnificent the differences can be, how magnifying the differences can be. What are the things that you're missing that you could be adding? Because if you were everything, then you wouldn't be hiring.
Right.
Yeah. So that's probably, I would say, because that's an advice to all my baby boomers out there, is that you guys can be really dug deep into your positions. And you tend to have a larger knowledge base in your generation. So I get why you feel it's a superior conclusion to your counterparts, but still there's an opportunity for you to learn, and don't miss out on that opportunity because someone doesn't mirror how you felt you were at 25.
Absolutely. That's some fantastic advice, Jared. I mean, really, that is some fantastic advice. And I think that you've actually given a lot of really good advice in this, 15, 20, I don't even know how long we've been on this call, but in this
might have been motivated by these other short phone calls of tough love. So maybe I was in that mood today. I don't know. You ask me tomorrow, I might tell you a whole different story.
I love it. Well, Jared, this, like I said, has been fantastic. Would it be okay with you if I share a link to your LinkedIn profile on the show notes?
Not at all. It's probably the only way they can even find me on social media. I don't have most of the other mediums.
Well,
I was about to name them, then I thought that might be press. I don't want to give them unsolicited press.
No. We'll stick with LinkedIn to keep it professional.
Where to find it?
I will include that into the show notes, but otherwise, This has been a fantastic interview, and I want to thank Jared Morgan for being on the show. I also want to thank the Emerging 100 of Houston for nominating him to be on the show. And of course, I want to thank the audience for checking us out today. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of the Millennial Rockstar Podcast. If you are looking for even more information on millennials and some free resources, visit my website at amandahammett.com. The link is below. It's amandahammett.com. There you can download a free millennial employee engagement guide that will give you all kinds of tips and tricks on how to keep those millennials engaged on a day-to-day basis. Because we all know that millennials who are happy at work are more productive at work.